Alright, for this video we're going to talk about a tool that's going to be really useful for building up your environments once you start your um, illustrations. It's called the Import Tool. So let me go down to the Import Tool. I'll talk about the menu first, and then I'll show you how you might use it. So a lot of the transform tools functions are built in over here because you're going to be dealing with the transform gizmo. There are two extra buttons up here, apply and add, and I'll show you how those work once I start working with some models. And auto scale scales the mesh to its original size in the scene. Import to separate instances. It'll create extra layers in the Vox tree with instances rather than clones. Import as a child it nests in the Vox tree. The way I explained, it creates a parent-child relationship in the Vox tree. I went over that idea in the video on the Vox tree, so refer to that if you're not sure what I mean by that. Cut through volumes, import with thickness. Yeah, I think it's probably best for me to show you how the rest of these work rather than try to talk about them. So the coolest feature for this is the on-brush feature. So if I go back to the sphere tool, create a quick plane in my scene, and bring it down to 0, 0, 0. And I go back to my import tool, and I click on brush. All these, a whole new set of functions will show up, and you'll see this panel over here. It's with the strips, alphas, models, and curves. You go to the model panel, and a bunch of primitive shapes will show up. A bunch of, and I have a few meshes that I've created for different projects in here. Again, you can make different folders, cloth, geometry, some rocks, I have some little plants, I have a human head. Let's see, what else do we have? There's other little options here. But we're going to go back to the default folder. I'm going to select my skull. You can see my little, turn this all to 0. All of a sudden I have a skull hovering in space over my model. I can just paint with this object, or I can paint with this model, which is pretty cool. So if I go through get rid of all of these, let me just do it this way. But you saw I created a separate Vox tree layer for each object. This gives you a little bit more control. If you use separate instances, you can control how you can see by controlling the depth of the brush. You can determine how far off the surface or how far in the surface your model your model's placed. You have a bunch of options to change the rotation of your imported object, yaw, jitter yaw, jitter pitch. So it looks like things are building up in a pile here. So yeah, pretty cool. You end up with a really fast way to build up a lot of complex detail. So I can think of a few uses for this. If I go to a new layer, don't save, sphere tool, let's create some little hills. I'm going to show you how to get your objects into the models panel and back into your scene. So all I'm doing here is creating a little landscape. Okay, that's good enough. All right, let me move that off to the. Oh, let me just hide that. The new layer in the box tree. Go back to my sphere tool again. I'm just going to draw a little bit of tree. Go to Shift L. roots. Alright, so I've got our model right here. It's not the most beautiful thing I've ever done, but it's good enough. So the first thing you want to do is go to the transform tool and center your object in the space. Alright, so that's the first thing you want to do. Then you want to come up here, go to your menu, go to export. You export and go to save to meshes panel. Just hit OK. You can delete that one. If you go over your models, let's go to the import tool first. Okay, so we're on the import tool. Let's turn on that. We have our tree. You see our tree is going a little wacky. It's hovering all over the place. Let's just turn all this to 0. We have our tree. And I can just start placing that back into the scene. So yeah, you've got a super easy way to start making a lot of complexity in your scenes. You know, if you come back in and pick a different, go back to my skull model. Put a smaller import tool. Turn up the jitter. Turn it way up. You know, don't worry if it doesn't come out exactly where you want it to be. You know, it's just, since you're importing it as separate layers, all you have to do is go select it, and just move it however you want it. Of course, you don't have to do that for everything, just the ones that you need, placed specifically for the composition. All of a sudden you have something that's super, super heavy metal. I mean, it doesn't get much more metal than this. Okay, I think that's the end of this video. All right, bye, guys.